Want to prevent shoulder injuries in the gym? Then stop using this. Hi, I'm Dr. Joe DeMarco, chiropractor and owner of OcraMed Health, and we're back in the gym today talking about injury prevention, in particular, how to prevent shoulder injuries. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been around gyms my entire life, going all the way back into the 70s and 80s. Yeah, I'm old, and it's interesting. I see some of the same equipment from back in the 70s and 80s still in the gym being used today, which is okay because some of it's really, really good stuff. But I'll tell you, there's other stuff in there that just needs to be tossed out in the trash. And what piece of equipment are we talking about today? We're talking about the V-grip. Now, I know some people are watching this video going, I use the V-grip all the time, and everyone uses the V-grip. I mean, I see this thing being used all the time in the gym. And you know what? You should toss it away. This is the worst piece of equipment when it comes to working back and causing a shoulder injury. And I'm going to explain to you why. This piece of equipment, look at the handles on this V-grip. The grips on it are only about 3 or 4 inches apart. And we use it to do things such as seated rows or pull down sometimes. And where are your hands positioned when you're doing the exercise? So, for example, I'm doing a seated row and I'm basically pulling this V-grip into my body. Now, anyone who has done seated rows before know that the most difficult part of the seated row, those last few inches, where you're really trying to pull those shoulders back and work those back muscles, and the weight's heavy and you're really straining at that point and you're exerting yourself at the most at that last few inches. And when you're using a V-grip, what happens at that point? Well, the farther I come in with that V-grip and I come closer and closer to my torso, look at what happens with my shoulder joint. I'm internally rotating my shoulder, which is bad. That's a bad position for your shoulder. And why do we do it? Anyone out there that does bent over barbell rows, if you're doing bent over barbell rows, your hands are about the width, usually about outside of your hips, so that as you row, you're in this position. Who does bent over barbell rows holding the barbell in here? Or if you're doing one-arm dumbbell rows, when you pull up on the dumbbell, you pull towards your torso, towards your hip. You don't pull in towards your stomach and internally rotate your shoulder. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? But for some reason, people think this grip makes sense, which makes, and it doesn't. Because what you're doing is you're basically pulling in, and at the part of the exercise where it's the most difficult and you really have to exert yourself, you're in a lot of internal shoulder rotation. And now, instead of firing those back muscles, that last few inches, because you're straining, you start working the internal rotators of the shoulder, in particular, your subscapularis, which is one of your rotator cuff muscles, and it performs internal rotation, and you're really doing this movement, you're really making yourself susceptible to injuring your rotator cuff, your subscapularis, because it's firing now. It's trying to help your back muscles pull that weight towards your torso. It's not meant to do that. It's not meant to handle heavy weight, and you're going to injure it. The other issue with this, as you're internally rotating and pulling, is now you're compromising the shoulder joint, because when we internally rotate and pull, the humerus is rotating in there and it's jamming up the shoulder joint. The AC joint, which forms from between the scapular and the clavicle, we form the AC joint in there, and there's a bursa in there underneath it, and there's a little tunnel where the supraspinatus, which is another rotator cuff muscle, runs through to attach to the humerus. That gets compromised when we internally rotate and pull. Some people, it happens are more susceptible to that type of impingement than others. It depends on the type of acromion process. Some people have a really hooked acromion process, which makes them much more susceptible to shoulder injuries if they're in an internal rotation. So, you may be getting away with this because you might have a good type 1 wide acromion process, but there's a lot of us out there with a type 2 and a type 3 acromion process, which forms a hook, and you're much more susceptible to shoulder injuries when you pull with internal rotation. So this thing is bad. You are setting yourself up for such a potential shoulder injury, and there's no reason to be using this. What I use when I'm doing any type of rowing motion is I'll just look for something in the gym with a wider handle. So something like this, a gadget like this, or maybe even a straight bar, or I'm sure people have seen other variations. So now, if I'm sitting there doing a seated row and I pull back to row, look at the beautiful shoulder position I'm in right now. I'm using my back muscles, and my shoulder is perfect. It's not internally rotated at all. This is a perfect position. I'm rowing in, my arms end up outside of my torso. I'm contracting my back at that part of the exercise where I'm straining the most. I'm not internally rotating, causing potential damage to my rotator cuff. So when you're in the gym and you're trying to, it's time to do back and you're going to do seated rows or pull downs, and you want to use that V-grip, toss the V-grip into the trash and grab something else in the gym with a nice wide grip on it so that you can keep that shoulder in a nice strong position, and you're going to get a better back workout because you're going to be using your back muscles, not your shoulder muscles, to do the exercise, okay? So get rid of that V-grip, find something with a wider grip. Prevent injuries. The number one thing that interferes with our progress in the gym, and I've said this a million times, is injuries. Injuries inhibit progress. When you get injured, you have to take time off, you lose progress, and you have to start from square one again. So we don't want to be injured. We want to train smart. All right, good luck. All right, I hope you found that information helpful. If you're looking for exercise programs, mobility plans, our new shock release instrument, it's all available on my website, www.OcraMedHealth.com. If you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe to my channel, OcraMed Health on YouTube. Questions about exercises or injuries, just leave a comment in the comments section below. I always get back to everyone who writes in. And don't forget, OcraMed Health is here to keep you fit forever.